The former Oil Minister of Nigeria, Madueke, has appeared in court in London after being charged with receiving bribes in exchange for multi-million-dollar oil and gas contracts. She was Nigeria's Minister of Petroleum Resources between 2010 and 2015 during the tenure of former President Goodluck Jonathan. Madueke was also the first female president of the oil bloc OPEC. Britain's National Crime Agency says she received various forms of awards, including cash, luxury goods and holidays. Meanwhile, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has obtained an arrest warrant as it begins the extradition process of the former Minister of Petroleum Resources from the United Kingdom back to Nigeria. So face the 13-count charges bordering on money laundering levelled against her by the Anti-Graft Agency. To better understand this development, we're joined by Debo Adeniran, Chairman of the Centre for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership. A warm welcome to you, Mr. Adeniran. Thanks for joining us at Nigeria Tonight.
Good evening. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Now, Mr. Adeniran, Madueke was arrested in 2015 and has been on bail ever since. This, in effect, the trial progressing. What does this say about the diligence in the prosecution of corruption cases compared to what obtains in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. You see, corruption cases everywhere in the world is difficult to prosecute, and we can't blame anti-corruption agencies for their inability to execute the prosecution within expected, period, because corruption crimes are not committed in the open. And to gather evidence and to secure consent of witnesses to come to court to help in prosecution of the cases are usually very difficult. And when you look at how evidence are collected, the evidence against corrupt elements are not warehoused in the same place. Anti-corruption agencies will have to move around several offices and even several countries before they could gather, adequate evidence that could lead to conviction. And that is what I believe that EFCC has been doing. And if you should remember, this case is actually a case of CACOL, even when we were Coalition Against Corrupt Leaders before we rebranded to Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership in 2016. We actually went public in public procession to EFCC and ICPC, asking that the then Jonathan government to relieve Alison Madueke of her job before KPMG, was it KPMC, that was contracted to investigate the unremitted $20 billion that was discovered by the then central bank, governor, Lamido Sanusi. And of course, she was not relieved of her duty, but investigation was conducted. Actually, forensic investigation was ordered by Jonathan government to unearth the location of the $20 billion. It wasn't so successful, but it led to her flight from Nigeria as soon as 2015 came, the end of that administration. She left Nigeria, and since then, EFCC has been on her trail. And EFCC has not been relenting. In fairness to the anti-corruption agencies, they have been unrelenting. But the host countries, despite the fact that they claim that they are also pursuing the cases made against her by EFCC, they did not help EFCC to gather enough evidence up to now. And we believe that
Thank you, Mr. Adeniran, for giving us a backdrop. Thank you for giving us a backdrop.
I didn't get that.
Thank you for the backdrop to the historical backdrop to corruption cases of this type of level. Now, let's take you away from this a little bit. Nigeria is celebrating 63 years of independence as a country. In our recent history, almost every administration makes the fight against corruption, you know, as one of the cardinal principles of the government, but we find it that, you know, it's just mere talk, and you know they just use it for to score political points. There's no political will to fight corruption. What do you think is responsible for this, and how much of a problem is corruption in the country?
Well, corruption is a huge problem in Nigeria, to the extent that you can't even be so sure of somebody who is not involved in commission of corruption crimes. And that is why it has seemingly become intractable in Nigeria. If you know what has been happening since independence, there has been one level of corruption. If you remember what Major Cardinal Uzogu leveled against the politicians of the First Republic, he accused them of unbridled corruption too. And that was what led to the Second Republic after the Civil War, after the interregnum and the rest of them. Then you still have people like Gowon being accused of perpetrating corruption, despite the fact that Gowon applied the new fund oil money, you know, petrodollar, as it's popularly called, on infrastructural development. But then several people in his regime were accused of, you know, taking certain things back from executing the infrastructural project. That up to the time Murtala Mohammed came. When Murtala Mohammed came, everybody believed that he was going to clear the against table, but somehow he was unable before he was murdered by Bukasuka Dinka. Then up to the time of Olusegun Obasanjo's regime was cowardly in pursuing corruption crimes. And he actually
we can't go all the way looking at Nigeria's history. I mean, we're still in Obasanjo's military, going from your analysis, and then we have Shagari and Buhari, and then Babangida Abdulsalam, Babangida Shoneko Abdulsalam, Babangida Abacha Shoneko, and all of that. It's part, I mean, it's almost like a part and parcel of our history, but we'll talk about solutions. Now, Mr. Adeniran, some say that corruption in Nigeria cannot be sincerely restricted to politically exposed persons, because from the point of view of the average Nigerian, they feel it's a leadership problem. We are not corrupt people. Even the civil servants, they give analysis and say, you know, it's the government and all of that. But civil servants, and in fact, people from every sector of our existence, manifest one form of corruption or the other. What practical steps, how do we, would you recommend to reducing corruption, if not eliminate it? We're a very religious country, but it doesn't seem like the religious practices, and every faith does frown against stealing and corruption. So why have we not imbibed it as a national culture?
Actually, corruption crimes cannot be committed in the public offices without the collaboration of the private, you know, concerns. Of course, they have to take it to bank, and most of these banks, apart from the central bank, are owned by private business people. These are and several other financial houses are owned by private business owners. So it is the collaboration of the political exposed persons and those in the private financial institutions that make corruption crimes easy to commit. And when you talk about support services being rendered by those who work with these public exposed persons, you know that it is not restricted to those politicians. But then you ask how it can be stemmed. First and foremost, we have to strengthen our law, the laws that controls corruption. Yes, we know that the preventive measures have been taken in the institution of BVN, you know, BVN, IPs, that is integrated, personal payroll, whatever
Systems,
scheme.
yeah.
Then you have what do you call TSA, treasury single account has reduced
so technology could be the use of technology could be used to fight corruption. Mr. Adeniran,
yes,
I wish we could go on, but I'm afraid we have to end the conversation at this point for want of time. Thank you so much, Mr. Debo Adeniran. Always a pleasure speaking with you. Thanks for your insights and contribution.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.
You're watching Nigeria Tonight on News Central Television. Coming up, Tribunal sacks Governor Sule of Nasarawa declares PDP candidate winner. We'll bring you details after this break.